Here's more wrestling news for February 7th, 2023. And we're kicking off this afternoon with WWE 2K23, which will be released next month, a year after the much-anticipated release of WWE 2K22. After the disaster that was WWE 2K20, WWE is back on track with its video games, but they're not the only promotion in the gaming market. AEW is still yet to release their Fight Forever video game over 2 years after it was announced in November 2020, and when speaking to WCCF Tech, WWE 2K23's creative director Lionel Jinx spoke about the competition. "I love competition. I started on NBA 2K, I spent 10 years on it, and in that time, we were going against NBA Inside Drive. Then we were going against NBA Shootout and NBA Live, and every year, we would look at what they did and be like, that's interesting, or they did that better than us. That only makes our games better." Same thing you could say about wrestling in general. Having competition, to me, it's no coincidence that the storylines in WWE have been the best they've been in a long time. I think it's because of that competition. It's the same with video games. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're gonna do that's gonna drive us to be even stronger. This year's WWE 2K23 will see the most up-to-date roster yet, a showcase mode about John Cena, as well as the debut of the War Games match. While there is some buzz for AEW Fight Forever, there's still no word on when that game will come out, and time will tell if AEW's first console video game is worth the wait. At NXT Vengeance Day, Grayson Lawler came up short in his efforts to dethrone NXT champion Braun Breaker, and to say he wasn't happy is an understatement. The Australian crashed the post-Vengeance Day media call and confronted NXT head Shawn Michaels about what he needs to do to be his guy, but these actions have cost Lawler. On Twitter, it was announced that Lawler has been suspended for 1 week for his actions, meaning he shouldn't be around for this week's episode of NXT. NXT Vengeance Day went off the air with Carmelo Hayes teasing that he'll be the next superstar to challenge Braun Breaker, and who would you prefer to see dethrone the NXT champion? Since leaving WWE, Deonna Purrazzo has made a name for herself in Impact Wrestling, but the former Knockouts champion is now facing a serious financial issue. On Twitter, the Virtuosa explained that PayPal has transferred her 5 times in just half an hour, all related to claims made by a Robert Enrick against her. We don't know what these claims are, but Purrazzo explained that she's now down thousands of dollars and hasn't been able to get any answers from PayPal themselves. Hopefully Purrazzo can solve this matter soon, as fighting with PayPal isn't the kind of brawl the former Knockouts champion is down for. We've got some sad news to report now, as former WCW star Charlie Norris has died at the age of 57. It was in the summer of 1993 that Norris emerged in WCW, clad in the regalia of a Native American warrior, and was considered a second-tier babyface at the time, beneath Sting. Despite his popularity, Norris's tenure with WCW ended in early 1994, and the ex-wrestler filed a lawsuit against them, alleging demeaning and racially charged acts. Norris pointed the finger of blame at WCW executive Greg Gagne, who he claimed would mock Norris's Native American heritage, calling him Big Chief in a derogatory manner. Norris would win that lawsuit, which also alleged that he was underpaid at $800 a week, and news of his passing was broken by the Cauliflower Alley Club, though no cause of death is known at this time. After leaving the wrestling world behind in 2001, Norris led a modest life on the Red Lake Indian Reservation in northwestern Minnesota, and we'd like to offer our condolences to those who knew him at this time. When Samoa Joe suffered a serious series of injuries in 2020, the former NXT champion was kept on TV, being placed behind the announcer's desk as a color commentator. Joe would remain a commentator until his first release from WWE in April 2021, and while he was no longer taking bumps in the ring, being a commentator came with its own set of problems. Speaking on the sessions, Joe told Renee Paquette about his experience as a commentator and the hardest part of the job. "I think the hardest part about commentary is the man in your ear, Vince McMahon," Joe said. "You can attest to that. It's just because he's very exact. He wants what he wants, no beef with that. Okay, I get it. I just thought about what I would want people to say about me when I was wrestling. That really was my main focal point. If I'm so-and-so, how would I want to be talked about? If I was on top and was putting on the pressure, how would I want to be described? Really, that's the mindset I took into it. I wanted to enhance whatever performer was in that ring." Joe added that after a year of McMahon in his ear, he gained a ton of respect for Michael Cole and believes anyone else would break under the pressure of McMahon except for Cole. Nowadays, things are much different, as Triple H is providing a much calmer voice in the ears of commentators, while Joe is now part of AEW and ROH, but we're sure he'll never forget his time behind the desk. We have some worrying news, as according to Jacob Gallant of Action News 5, Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler suffered a stroke at his Fort Myers, Florida home yesterday. Gallant reports that Lawler had been out to lunch with friends when he became ill and collapsed in a parking lot. Lawler was immediately rushed to the local hospital nearby his condo, where he underwent surgery and is currently recovering. Wrestling legend Dutch Mantel provided an update on the Hall of Famer's condition on Twitter earlier today. Dutch said that Lawler experienced paralysis on his right side, but has regained partial use of his right arm, and the good news is that Lawler is expected to recover from the medical incident. This isn't the King's first stroke, as he suffered his first one back in 2018. Also, most wrestling fans will remember Lawler suffering a heart attack in 2012 during an episode of Monday Night Raw. Up until this medical incident, Lawler had remained active in the wrestling world at the age of 73. He recently appeared on WWE's Royal Rumble pre-show as a panelist on January 28th and participated in an autograph signing in Florida over the weekend. The King last competed in the ring on January 21st against the Beer City Bruiser at AML Acts of War Games 2 in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. According to Cage Match, Lawler took part in 10 matches throughout 2022. On behalf of everyone here at Slat Rock Wrestling, we wish Jerry Lawler a speedy recovery. During last month's Men's Royal Rumble match, Gunther and Brock Lesnar had the chance to lock horns during the Beast's brief stint in the match. The fans in the Alamo Dome, as well as those watching at home, were ecstatic to see the two face off, but is a match in the works? We can't say for certain, but Gunther certainly hopes so, and had nothing but praise for Brock when speaking on the Rob Brown Show. Brock is a 1 in a million guy, 1 in 10 million. I've always liked those guys that have stood out from the pack. I stopped watching wrestling for a while when I was a teenager, and then got back into it again when I started training. There was a time when Brock was young and he was wrestling Eddie Guerrero and Big Show and Kurt Angle, and the guy was fantastic. I always loved his matches and was very impressed with that, and also with the recent years in WWE. I always thought it would be a thing for wrestling in my style. That's my end boss. I've been portrayed as the end boss in wrestling for a lot of guys, but I think Brock would be my end boss. I really hope the match goes down at some point. While there were once plans for a match at WrestleMania, more recent reports have said that it'll be Gunther versus Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus this April. Gunther has been wildly impressive on WWE's main roster and had a great outing in the Men's Rumble match, and a match with Lesnar would go a long way in making 2022 the year of Imperium. It was just a few months ago that Candice LeRae returned to WWE, but not long after her return, the Poison Pixie vanished from TV. After teaming with Bianca Belair to face Damage Control in October, LeRae's sudden departure resulted in her missing the Survivor Series War Games event in late November, but now we know exactly why she was gone. Speaking on the Sam LaPrade show, Candice said that a freak accident resulted in her missing some in-ring time, and said that getting injured is scarier to her now that she has a son to provide for. Candice was a crucial part of Triple H's women's division in NXT, and with the game in charge, things look bright for her on the main roster, just as long as she can keep injury-free. After Swerve and Our Glory split, Swerve Strickland wasted no time in finding a new team, and that includes the mysterious tattooed powerhouse known as Trench. It was last week that Trench, real name Grandin Goatsman, got his new name on AEW TV, and that change has now been made official. On AEW's roster website page, the change has been confirmed with the addition of Trench, and after the Mogul affiliate started a feud with Brian Pillman Jr. and Dustin Rhodes on last week's Rampage, expect to see much more of Trench. And we're ending today with Brock Lesnar, who appeared on this week's Raw to challenge Bobby Lashley to a match at Elimination Chamber. Lesnar cut an excellent promo, especially for someone who spent years of his career with Paul Heyman doing the talking, but there was an unfortunate botch during his segment. As Lesnar was making his way to the ring, the Beast Incarnate did his usual spot on the entrance ramp, and fans heard the sounds of his pyro go off. Fans heard Brock's pyro but did not see his pyro, as for some reason there were no fireworks for Lesnar, despite him always having them. This botch also gave away that WWE sweetens the audio whenever Brock makes his entrance, making his pyro louder than it is by adding some dubbed explosions. Even with this awkward segment, Lesnar still had a great segment with Lashley, which saw the Almighty leveled with not one, but two F5s. But we expect that everyone will be double checking that all pyro works when these two face off at Elimination Chamber.